to feel the power. So much power for me today here, Colin. This is Colin Crandall and myself, Adam Roorda, with another amazing episode of MMA Power Hour. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I apologize there for a little bit of a technical glitch. We've got a hard drive here that kind of wants to go in and out, caused some issues for us last week, but thank you for hanging in there with us. I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to everybody that is tuning in, but also to our partners. We've got quite a few of them to list off, but I'll just start off with Ness's Hemp. They're the primary partner over the last few months as far as dumping money into advertising and marketing and really helping get word out about MMA Power Hour. They have one of the highest quality CBDA products out there. It is a full spectrum hemp oil. I highly recommend getting some for yourself. It really helps with pretty much any ailment you can think of. We've actually had on an amazing researcher, Dr. Alif, and he was here to vouch for it as well. And I mean, he's really considered one of the top of the top.
Absolutely. Karamet Alif, a very sharp guy, many years in the industry, from Michigan like myself. I think he's still there, and a really good guy, and really did research the better companies out there, and it feels that Inessa's hemp is one of the very best, if not the best.
Absolutely. And we've got a couple great interviews coming up here, so hang tight. We've got legend of the sport Dan Henderson and
Gravely.
UFC
Yep. Lightweight, but bantamweight,
Tony Gravely.
Tony Gravely.
I actually knew that one.
Yep, you were right. So, I don't know what made me say lightweight, but a lot of lightweights on lately, as far as in the weight divisions. But yeah, absolutely great show coming at you. Plus, you can see I got my black polo on. I'm having a pretty good hair day, so you know when that combo is here, we're going to create a powerful MMA Power Hour show for you. So old guy is feeling it here. I'm feeling pretty good. Got our great people there saying hello. Colonel Quayle, my old colonel from the Air Force. Colonel, how are you? So good to hear from you. No, I was never in the Air Force. My father was, though, and Colonel Quayle might have been his colonel, but then my dad, if it was someone a colonel to my dad, he'd probably be dead. Anyway, Colonel Quayle, whoever you are, hello. And Phil, yeah, Phil with a great last name. Phil, great to see you or hear from you. Thanks for jumping in here with the question marks. Yeah, we're delayed slightly, but now we're on and we're rocking. Dr. Adam Roorda, man, oh man. As Elvis could say, can Hawaii get sticky? Huh? This is going to be a great show coming up this weekend for the UFC. There's Bellator as well, other organizations putting on shows, but man, can't wait for the UFC this Saturday. Can you?
Absolutely not, man. I'm ready after this short little break, and this week and this month are just insane, just packed full of so much televised MMA. It's crazy. We
Absolutely.
got an event going on now with one on TNT. We've got Bellator coming up here on Friday on Showtime, and then UFC on Saturday.
Without a doubt.
Man, I'm just stoked to sit back, kick back, and I'm going to go ahead and smoke a little.
Absolutely.
For those of you that are smokers, also head on over to mmaph.nessashemp.com. Get the best discount you can. That actually does not have THC in it, or at least not enough to impact anything. And it should be good to, for all of you fighters out there, should be good enough to pass the USADA tests.
Yep.
But
pure CBD, CBDA, the highest quality CBD there is. Yeah.
Yep.
For my Canadian friends, you'd have to double the A. You'd say CBDA, A. CBDAA, right? So anyway, love it, and really great quality stuff. Anyway, that's enough of that. So let's go on to say that I am super excited. I know that all of you are in being able to finally see a UFC with the full fans at the event in Florida on the 24th. I'm super excited. I'm not concerned in the least. If I could be there, I would be there. I know there's gonna bring the volumes adjustment here. So anyway, I know there's gonna be a bunch of jackasses that say that everyone who attends the event will be dead within the following year or whatever. I call bullshit on that. I think that there's a good chance not only that no one will be dead unless you're already 80 years old, which most people going to UFC events are not, but I think people are not going to get sick. I think it's going to be a good time, and it's going to show that we can get back to real life where we don't have to walk around looking like surgeons getting ready for surgery. and all kinds of other complete horseshit. Anyway, just my thought.
Well, my thought is vaccinations have a lot to do with it. I think we'll be good with the vaccinations. So
Yep.
I'm excited to get back to normal. I
Yes,
do take the
yes.
precautions. I'm not necessarily in the same boat as you. I will
Right.
call bullshit when I see it. And enough with the SH word tonight.
Yes, that's it. That's our allowance for that. So anyway, political commentary done for the day. So MMA, man, we actually are a couple minutes away, maybe. So if you want to get started working on that, Doc, or if
I'm ready, and I'm seeing that he's online, and we're starting out with Hendo, right?
yep.
That's what I thought.
Want to do it?
Well, we got a couple minutes.
Okay.
But, yeah.
So on Saturday, the main event is a thrown together event. It was supposed to be Marvin Vettori against who the heck was Vettori supposed to go against? Who fell out of that fight?
I'm not even remembering anymore, but we got Holland stepping in on a short notice.
Kevin Holland stepping in. Oh, I think it was Vettori against Robert Whittaker, I believe.
I think wasn't it Till?
No, Darren Till. Sorry, that's right. It was Vettori and Till. Till fell out, and our good friend Kevin Holland.
I was having a brain fart because you were.
Yeah, I tell you what, man. I like Kevin in this fight. Marvin is a tough guy. I know that Marvin's been on a win streak, whereas Kevin did get kind of shut down by Derek Brunson. But I think that this short notice seems to be in Kevin's wheelhouse. I think making him a 3-1 dog probably is going to really motivate him, and I think Kevin's got a very good chance here.
I think he's extremely motivated, and he really excels with these short notice fights. He's unlike any other person in the UFC.
Yeah.
I really think that he's going to take this one. It's close enough, just in general with the odds makers. I think he's going to take this one.
Absolutely. And we have two of our guests fighting each other. I always hate to see that, but we got Smiling Sam Alvey, a student of and team member of Dan Henderson, who is coming up next, going up against Julian Marquez, who is a great guy as well. Hate that fight. They're both great guys. And then D-Rod we got against Mike Perry. Anyway, whenever you're ready to touch around Roorda, we don't want to keep our Hall of Fame legendary fighter guest waiting.
We'll get going here.
Skype dance, baby. Whenever you hear that music,
dance, baby.
Should I do that? I'll do the Jens Pulver Skype dance.
Skype dance. There he is.
Hey, Dan, are you there?
I'm here.
Excellent. All good, brother. All good. All we need you to do is he already got it, right? Excellent. So, Dan, we're live. I'm going to give you a proper intro, and then we'll get rocking. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm super excited to have this next guest back on the show. One of my all-time favorite fighters, and I think many of you would agree. Legend, Pride champion, former UFC top contender, and one of the best guys in the sport. UFC Hall of Fame member. So much more to say, but we don't even have time to list everything that this man's accomplished. So happy to have the man they call Hendo, Dan Henderson, back with us. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. So much to talk to you about, man. I really appreciate you coming on. A lot of interesting things going on. UFC is about ready to go back to a live audience in Florida. I'm really excited about that. I think that's great. What do you think? Is that something that worries you, or do you think it's a good thing that they're doing over in Florida?
I'm surprised it took so long to do.
Yep, I agree.
I haven't been worried about COVID myself, but I don't know. I've got a different mentality than most.
Yeah, I agree. Let me ask my producer, Doc, can you turn down the volume a little bit for me through Dan? I appreciate it. Yeah, so it's going to be great. Some amazing fights going on. And so one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was it seems like over the last couple years, the going to different divisions has been a big thing. You were, if not the first, one of the first people to have 2 belts in a major organization. I think you may have been the first, with being the Pride middleweight and light heavyweight champion. And since then we see Conor McGregor, we see Daniel Cormier, we see Amanda Nunes. It's very hard to do, but a lot of fighters are wanting to do it. And I think for years the UFC didn't really want that, and now they're kind of open to it. In the UFC, you competed in both light heavyweight and middleweight, or was it only middleweight? I think it was both, but primarily middleweight. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't know. how many of which weight class? I was primarily light heavy, and then I started out at middleweight, and then went up to light heavy, and or vice versa. I think, I don't know. I don't know which I had more of, but I was at both quite a bit.
Absolutely. So what did you think of Israel Adesanya going up and fighting against Jan Blachowicz? Before I get your answer on that, I was going to say that I thought what was unusual about that was that he didn't even have a single light heavyweight fight in the UFC. Like, Jon Jones is making sure he's putting on some size, and he's taking several months, possibly it may even be a year, before he takes his first heavyweight fight. Izzy, I think, is just like off the cuff, said, yeah, let's do this. He came in at 200.5 pounds in a fight that was a 206 limit. He probably was 15 or 20 pounds lighter than his opponent there, who was the champion. And I thought he gave it a hell of a shot, but it just, the size difference, I think, really mattered. What did you think of Israel and his camp deciding so quickly, let's just go up and do this? We don't care about putting on any weight. We don't care about ever getting any other fight in light heavyweight. Let's just go fight the champion right now. Did you admire that? Did you think Izzy had a chance? What did you think of his performance?
I thought he had a pretty good performance. And honestly, he's probably about the same size I always was, and didn't have a problem with it, and never thought twice about fighting at light heavy or middleweight. I weighed in primarily most of the time right around 200 pounds, 202 maybe, for my fights at light heavy. So, and that was just what I weighed. I think my last fight against DC, I weighed in at 199. Right,
I think I remember that.
So, I don't know. I just, I like that about guys that aren't worried about cutting weight to be able to compete. Be comfortable and confident in yourself and your skills at whatever weight class you weigh. You should be able to beat guys a little bit bigger than you, or I've always said that it doesn't matter necessarily so much about the size or strength of somebody. If they don't know where to put it, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, very, very true. And I think Blachowicz is a tough guy. I just recently heard Blachowicz say if they want to pay him, he'll fight. He'll go up to heavyweight to fight against Ngannou. I don't know if anyone's going to pay him to do that, because pay for a homicide there, which is probably what it would look like. But what did you think of Stipe versus Ngannou? I'd really like your opinion, because you know a hell of a lot more than me from being there and doing it. Although I've been a martial artist all my life, and I've watched and trained. But this was my thought, and I'm curious to hear your opinion. When I saw that Stipe was going to be lighter than he had been for the previous fight against Ngannou by 12 pounds, I know he had been lighter for DC. But DC's not as big a guy as Francis. When I heard that Stipe was going to come in at 233, and Ngannou had already been practicing and training with Kamaru Usman and learning to sprawl and really practicing his takedown defense, I just didn't feel like that was maybe the best thing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if you want to have a better chance to take someone down, it probably helps if you have some more size on you than being smaller. But let me just kind of bundle that all into the final question. So Stipe comes in light. He shoots once, and Francis shuts him down. And then it looks like literally they just said, we're not going to shoot anymore. And what are we going to do here? Let's just try to see what happens. Or I don't know. I respect Stipe. He's an amazing fighter. But what happened in that fight? Can you tell me from the game plan of the guy with the better wrestling, Stipe? Did he just lose a step in his last fight? He's getting close to 40. I don't know. Or what happened to make that fight go that way? And did it surprise you?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anybody was surprised that Francis was able to knock anybody out.
Yeah.
You know, that's always a good chance of happening in every one of his fights. But you know, I thought Stipe. I don't know exactly what the game plan would be, but I think it should have been to really set up your takedowns and get, you know, Francis coming at you a little more. And I know that Francis kind of went out there and was a little bit more methodical and didn't rush him too much. I think he was worried about getting taken down, but you know, I don't. Stipe had one takedown attempt, and Ngannou did a great job with his defense. But I think you know, Stipe definitely could have went back and still tried to be taking him down. One or two times on top, I think he would have really wore Francis out. And you know, a big, strong guy like that has a lot of power, it definitely diminishes if you're a little tired. So I think that should have been a little bit more what Stipe should have been going after the takedowns a little bit better. But you know, it's easier said than done sometimes.
Yeah, understood. One sequence that I'd like your opinion on, that final sequence where they exchanged and Stipe kind of tagged Francis, and it looked to me like right then would have been the perfect time to shoot again. And instead, it looks like Stipe kind of said, man, I think I might have tagged that big guy. Let me just throw some hands here. Why? I mean, wouldn't the shot have been the better thing at that point?
Either backing away and recovering a little better, because he just got done taking a pretty good shot, and then, you know, I think because he did land a pretty good shot on Francis, he thought he had him hurt. He went after him and just walked right into a punch. So yeah, either backing out or changing levels and trying to take down would have been. Both of those would have been a lot better than what he did.
Yeah. Sometimes it's so hard to know, and I guess in a situation like that, you literally have like a split second to decide what to do. And I think Stipe is a great champion and a great fighter, and is kind of pretty much known as a guy with a high fight IQ. Do you remember any situations in your career, because you were also a guy with a very high fight IQ, were there any situations that you feel the decision you made at one split second was the absolutely wrong decision? And if so, which fight was that?
I'm sure I could think of a few of those, but you know, when you get somebody hurt and you feel like you connect and you know, you want to rush in as fast as you can to maybe finish him, you know, that's when you kind of let your guard down a little bit and come in a little quick, and I've been tagged a number of times like that. You know, same exact way, but not in the same manner that Stipe was. But you know, I know that there's been a couple different things that I can't pick any one fight out specifically, but you know, where I made definitely a bad mistake. You know, I'm sure there was one or two when I fought Vitor in Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know that I made my second fight with Shogun.
Mm-hmm.
Did the same thing, hurt him, rushed in and got tagged, and ended up trying to barely make it through the first round. So it definitely changes things when you feel like you hurt somebody.
Absolutely. And no one is perfect. Fighters will make mistakes during some point in each fight, but is that something that you think separates the really good fighters from the just average fighters, making less mistakes? Like, you know, have you noticed that a lot of the fighters that were good but that you beat were because they made mistakes that were kind of almost like a gift to you?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say gift, but yeah, it's always better to make less mistakes, and if you don't make any mistakes, it's really hard to get beat. And you know, granted, if you don't make any mistakes, and neither does your opponent, it's all about who has better skills, who had the better game plan, and who implemented their game plan a little bit better. So, yeah, I mean, that's always tough to say, but wrestling's the same way. if nobody could score on you, it's hard to lose.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know what comes to mind is that great Fedor fight that you had and that you won in, what was that, in Strikeforce, I think?
Yep.
So let me ask you this. What could Fedor have done when you started to come up off the bottom? And I don't know, I'm not the most knowledgeable wrestling guy. I don't know, it was some kind of a whizzer or something where you caught him and just started to reverse position. What could he have done different to have not ended up with you on his back smashing him with punches?
Yeah, it's just basically sitting back, put his weight back on his hips a little better, and I wouldn't have been able to get out as easy. And once I did get out, he just posted right onto his hands instead of just, he was so off balance to begin with. It made it a lot easier for me to get out. And he was wide open for that little shot up the armpit there. So, yeah, I mean, he needed to defend that a little bit before I got to the position. So,
gotcha.
By not letting me up quite so easy.
Was the wrestling background key in that? Had he been a wrestler like yourself, do you think he might have made that decision and been successful in stopping you by doing what you're saying?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I mean, a wrestler will be able to feel that weight a little bit just naturally, and kind of hold you down a little bit better. A lot of my toughest fights in my career have been against wrestlers, so
yeah,
that don't want to strike with me. So that makes it tougher to strike with a guy or try to finish somebody when all they want to do is take you down.
Absolutely. Speaking about a wrestler striking, we've got an interesting fight coming up in about a week and a half. Just a boxing match between Ben Askren and Jake Paul, the social media influencer. He and his brother, you might have heard of, are do a little bit of boxing. They're not that great at it, but they've trained with Mayweather and other stuff. First of all, I think it's really interesting that when Jake Paul picks a member of the MMA community, he picks a guy who's past his prime and who really never was a very good striker. I have all respect for Ben Askren, but some people called him one of the worst strikers in the history of the UFC top 10. But it's interesting that they pick Ben Askren of all people, but now I'm thinking that some people are believing in Ben. I know you know Ben Askren, and I
really don't know him very well at all. I may have met him once or twice, but his wrestling time was much after mine.
Right,
so
right.
I wasn't involved in wrestling so much during that time, and no, he's not the best or hasn't shown the best striking in any of his MMA fights. So yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely a tough fight for him, but maybe he's definitely a great athlete, and maybe the fact that he's not allowed to use any of his wrestling to fall back on, he's actually going to learn how to strike a little bit better, and maybe he's going to come in prepared for this one to actually strike. He's definitely a good athlete, so we'll see what happens, I guess.
Absolutely. It'll be interesting. I think the one thing that people are not thinking about is the fact that to be an MMA fighter for a dozen years, man, you got to have gone through a lot of fire and hard training, and then also to be a top wrestler. So Ben Askren obviously is a rugged individual. He's a tough guy. He's, in other words, if someone on the street decided to walk over and punk him and hit him in the face, he's probably not going to react by falling on the ground unconscious. He's a strong guy. He's a physically strong person. Do you think that ruggedness of him being an elite level athlete in wrestling and being a high level MMA fighter for so many years will maybe help him to deal with some of the boxing skills of a guy who's just 23 or 4 years old and who pretty much is a social influencer who's been training boxing only for 2-3 years?
Well, I think that just the background in wrestling and the amount of accomplishments that he's had and the amount of time that he's been training, he knows how to train hard. He knows what it is to be tough. and like I said, he's a really good athlete. So yeah, that gives him a chance right there, and it's making him focus just on striking. So we'll see. At least he doesn't have to worry about any flying knees coming at him.
Yes, exactly. That definitely will be a benefit to him. So speaking about different divisions, Jon Jones is finally going up to heavyweight. It's taking a while here, and now all this talk between him and Dana about the money, and he's going to step aside, and then he was asking to be released. Obviously, the UFC is not going to release Jon Jones, I really wouldn't think. But anyway, now apparently they're in talks, but also Derek Lewis is in talks. Can Jon Jones, and I know you know him well, can Jon Jones, if he's put on 20 or 30 pounds of muscle, can he go in there and compete and be successful in the heavyweight division? That's my first question. And then the second question is, can he do anything against Francis Ngannou?
Yeah, I honestly, and I don't know if he could put on 20 or 30 pounds of muscle, the legal way.
Right, that's true. Yeah.
That's tough to do. But I honestly think Ngannou would be an easier fight for him than Stipe would be.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of the wrestling background that Stipe has, and he moves a little bit quicker and can defend those takedowns, and he definitely has power as well to knock Jones out. But yeah, Ngannou has that power, and he looked pretty good as far as defending the one takedown Stipe tried. But Jon Jones typically comes in with a really good game plan, sticks to it really well, and executes most of the time. So I think Ngannou would be a better fight for Jon than Stipe would be.
Gotcha. Now, I was talking to a friend who was a wrestler, actually someone I trained jiu-jitsu with, and I was talking about wrestlers toward the end of their MMA career, and I asked him, I said, why do some of these wrestlers toward the end of their career seem to be only willing to stand? They're not going to shoot in even against an inferior opponent. And I asked my friend, I said, is it because they just figure that they want to have fun standing in the pocket? And he said, do you think if a really good wrestler felt like it would be really easy for him to take his opponent down who was a much better striker in an MMA fight, that they wouldn't do it just because they want to have fun? And I said, I mean, probably not. If they're young, maybe. But he said, if they're older, they wouldn't. He said, what it is, he said, you get a wrestler who realizes that he doesn't have that speed anymore. He doesn't have the ability to come in and get those takedowns and be quick and get in deep, and he just can't do it. That's why he's not doing it, because he can't do it. And he said, now, Father Time catches up with everyone. But he said eventually everyone in every sport gets to the point where they can't do what they did. But he said wrestling is a skill that if you're losing your reflexes, and you're losing your reflexes little by little every year, then eventually you're not going to be able to do what you did 10 or 20 years before. Can Jon Jones, who hasn't been wrestling much at all for several years, do you think does he still have it? Or the fact that he's not old, the fact that he's only 33, 34, you would think, I guess, he probably still has his reflexes. But what do you think of the fact that if someone's not using their wrestling much for several years, although they're good at it, can they just turn it back on? And does the age really have a lot to do with it?
I honestly don't agree with whoever it is that told you that. But,
okay.
I as a wrestler, I mean, I was older too, and the primary reason why I preferred to strike was that was the easiest way for me to finish a fight.
Right.
Especially with how good these guys are at defending submissions, and that wasn't my expertise. I'm pretty good at them, but my best chance of finishing a fight is with striking.
You had the striking, though. You had the striking skill, admittedly.
And you watch Randy in his fights, and he was good with his striking, but he didn't hesitate to take people down when he needed to, and was still capable of it at an old age. I get in there and spar occasionally with some of the guys, and because I'm a little bit out of shape and a little slower and older, I take him down all the time now in practice, where I didn't used to do that. Because it's a little easier for me for my win to be on top instead of scrambling around all the time.
Right.
So,
Sure.
yeah, I think Jon Jones is right in that same boat. He hasn't needed his wrestling other than to maybe defend takedowns here and there, but and when he has needed it, he's used it and he's done a good job with takedowns. He took down DC the first time they fought a couple times. So yeah, I think his wrestling is going to be there when he needs it, and it's all about when you get a hold of somebody. It's not about speed at that point. It's about technique and,
Right.
and striking more about speed. And as you get older and you get a little slower, it's harder to land as many punches. But takedowns are pretty easy, and especially if you get a hold of somebody.
Yeah, kind of like Habib always showed. If you're always in the right position, you're going to get the takedowns, right?
Right. And he was a guy that was relentless about it.
Yeah.
You could definitely use a lot less energy than he did taking guys down, but he was just relentless with them.
Absolutely. Now, what do you think about the fact that Francis showed one sprawl? He defended one takedown. I know so many of us wish we could have seen if he had the ability to stop 2 takedowns or 3 or 5. That would have given us a better idea. I know that having Kamaru Usman in there has got to be amazingly helpful, and I know some people that have trained over at Extreme Couture. Obviously, Randy, but people that have been there watching Francis, and he is just training hard on the wrestling. He knows that that's that was his Achilles heel. Can Kamaru Usman, grabbing a guy in his mid-30s who grew up in Africa and in France, not in the collegiate wrestling system, can Francis really become a guy at this age who has really good takedown defense? I think that's the question a lot of people have, is that would he have shut down 2 or 3 or more takedowns that Stipe would have thrown? Is Francis now going to be a guy who is going to be able to shut down every wrestler he fights, or would you feel that's very unlikely? Or how good do you think he can do with Kamaru Usman there?
Honestly, I mean, it's hard to say. We only got to see one takedown defense, and he did the right things. He defended that almost perfectly, and I think had we seen Stipe try a couple more takedowns, he there's a good chance that Stipe would have got him and made some adjustments. And wrestling takes a long time to learn compared to other things, in MMA.
Yeah.
Wrestling is one of the toughest things to really get good at. But if you're not focused on every part of wrestling, only takedown defense, you definitely get better at it, quite a bit better. So, and that showed in him. And I think, being at a gym like Randy's, I mean, you need a little bit bigger guys than Usman trying to take you down, but just having the technique and having access to all that technique is definitely a good thing.
Absolutely. Let me read a couple of comments from some of your fans watching. One of them feels that your spinning back fist against Vanderlei was your greatest moment. Is that up there, would you say, in your opinion?
I don't know about that. I think the part when I knocked him out was even better.
Yeah.
It was definitely something that I didn't expect to do, didn't plan on doing. I just kind of got to be kind of out of position, and he had a good angle on me, and I decided to throw a spinning back fist. It wasn't anything that I did that often in practice, but occasionally.
Absolutely. I remember after that fight, because I was watching all those fights on pay-per-view, and I think I remember Vanderlei mentioning, because he was known for cutting a lot of people up. that Axe Murderer nickname wasn't just for nothing. He would just cut a lot of people up. And I remember, I think after that first fight with you, he said you had skin like a snake, like he couldn't cut you up no matter what he did, that your skin was so thick. Had you ever heard of that before, or did you ever realize or think of yourself as someone that was good at being able to resist being cut?
Yeah, in my fighting career in MMA, I did have a few cuts, but not very many. I got cut open more in wrestling than I did in fighting. Mm-hmm. You clash heads a little bit more in wrestling than you do in MMA. But yeah, it was definitely a good thing to have, tougher skin for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was definitely a plus.
Without a doubt. And I think that's something that as time goes by with scar tissue, it becomes more difficult. Did you ever find yourself having a problem with scar tissue as the years went by, or was that something that was anything you were even really aware of, or not really?
I mean, I'm sure I have some scar tissue here and there, but like I said, in wrestling, I was split open a few times with my bigger scar on my cheek and a bunch under my chin, all from wrestling, and I'm sure it built up a little bit of scar tissue, but I didn't have any issues with the same spot opening up over and over again in my MMA career at all. So,
gotcha. Interesting question. We had one of your arch nemesis on the show last year. Late last year, I think it was, Michael Bisping. I remember that the Ultimate Fighter season was really something, man. That trash talk he was putting out there was insane, and everyone was so happy when you got by your revenge by absolutely smashing him. That also obviously probably had been a highlight. Did that squash the beef as far as you were concerned after that? And did you have any okay feelings about Michael Bisping, or did you pretty much dislike the guy before, during, and after that fight?
Yeah, I don't know how well I liked him to begin with, but dislikes a strong word. Is not a guy that I'd want to hang out with or prefer to hang out with just because of how he is. But I didn't have too big of a problem with him, other than just how he was on the show. He wasn't somebody I wanted to be around, and he definitely had a loud mouth that I was definitely going to try to shut. So,
yep.
I think it only shut it for a month or two, and he was back at it again.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that is true. I believe
for a long time.
Say that again. I'm sorry, I talked over you.
It's hard to shut guys up like that permanently.
That is true. Although it does seem like as years went by and he got older, he became mature, and it seems like he kind of stopped playing the heel. And it's kind of ironic that for the last 5 or 6 years, people like him. He's no longer fighting, but it seems like all of a sudden people started saying, "Wow, this guy's not talking as much trash. He's a veteran. He's been in there. He knows what it's like. He's a tough guy." And that eye, man, he was kind enough to take his eye out on my show. I didn't even ask him to do it, but he said, "You're a great interviewer and you're a good guy." And he said, "We're talking about his eye and his health," and he took it right out. If he was fighting for several years with a fake eye, because I remember a guy told me 10 years ago that I trained jiu-jitsu with, that he didn't say what it was, but he said, "Man, from what I'm hearing, that guy can't see very well out of one eye." That would definitely make him a pretty tough guy if that was true, wouldn't you think?
I'm sure it definitely is a little tougher to see some of the strikes coming at different angles. I've wrestled against blind guys before, and as long as they got a hold of you, they know kind of what to do. But yeah, it definitely changes your perspective on them a little bit without an eye. But yeah, I'm not sure how long he had it like that or not. So
definitely interesting. Well, so are you looking forward to watching the UFC fights this Saturday? I know you don't watch every weekend, but are you looking at this one, or what are you looking forward to, if any?
Yeah, one of my guys is fighting this weekend, so Sam Alvey is fighting.
That's right. He's a great guy. Sam is an amazing guy. We've had him on the show, and he's fighting another guy we've had on the show, and that's always tough, Julian Marquez. But Sam is going back down to middleweight after a little bit of a stay at light heavyweight. That's what I was going to ask you. What do you think of the position there that he's back at middleweight? And also, how important do you think it would be that we finally implement a 195-pound division in the sport?
I don't know. Like I said, I've never been too keen on cutting weight or guys cutting weight in MMA, and you know, I think it's probably better for Sam to be at 185, although he's, you know, definitely heavier than I ever was. You know, but I think 185 for where he's at in the sport, and he's got power, especially at 185. A lot of those guys don't have the power he has, you know, and he's definitely a little bit quicker when he stays lighter. You know, and he's learning, and he's still getting better. And technically, every year, every fight, he works on different things and getting better. But you know, I do like him better at 185.
Yeah, makes sense. He's got such a great attitude, and that seems to be real. Like, whenever I've corresponded with him, he's always super friendly and super polite. So that's not an act. Like, I know once in a while you have someone that has this great image. A lot of people in Hollywood, I've heard, and then when you meet them in person, they pretty much tell you to go F yourself. You know, but I think that Sam Alvey is really this image of the smiling, happy, friendly guy, isn't he?
No, he definitely is the guy that you see. You know, you see what you get with him, and he's a refreshing guy to have around the gym, and just always has a great attitude. He's in there to work hard every day, and you know, kind of inspires the younger guys to do the same.
Absolutely. That's good to hear. 2 minutes left with you, Dan. I just realized that when I was talking about the fighters in the one different belts, and I didn't give you much of a chance to respond, or else I'm sure you would have mentioned this. I don't know how I excluded Randy Couture. Who had 2 belts first, you or Randy?
Well, I think Randy did, but he didn't have them at the same time. I think that's the difference.
That's right.
That saying, you know, simultaneously having them, you know, 2 different weight class belts. But yeah, I mean, I think I did that for about 10 years before Connor had finally done it. I was along the years, I'd seen a couple chances in the UFC. I think BJ Penn had a chance to get 2 belts, and just I was rooting for him. Was always a big fan of his, and he just didn't get the job done. Came in a little bit out of shape, and you know, that I think there's only been a couple different times where someone's even had the opportunity in the UFC to have that. So.
Right. And then GSP came back and got it from Bisping, but he was no longer the welterweight champ. You know, but yeah, an amazing athlete. So final question here. This Saturday, it was supposed to be Marvin Vettori against Darren Till, replaced by Kevin Holland. What do you think? How does that fight unfold? What are some of the key factors there? Who do you think takes that?
You know, I don't know. I know. I just don't know. It's hard to say on those guys. I haven't. Honestly, there's too many damn fighters out there now to track every one of them. I know I've seen them fight, but you know, putting exact time frame on and visualizing their actual fight that they had is a little tough.
Understood.
And I didn't go back to look at any videos and stuff, but
right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping it's a good fight. I'm definitely tuning in to watch Sam fight, so I'm sure I'll watch that one as well.
Absolutely. Then let me ask you, Kamaru Usman, Jorge Masvidal. Masvidal says he's not going to be given such short notice here. He's not going to have to lose 20 pounds in a week. That equals to him beating Kamaru Usman. Do you agree?
I'm gonna have to disagree with that one. Usman's just a beast, and he's got a great style. He's a good wrestler, and he uses that to his advantage pretty well. So, and he's got power, and I think he's a tough fight for anybody.
Absolutely, he is amazing. Just seeing him and maybe Covington run it back would possibly be the most exciting, right?
I'd like to see that one. For sure.
Absolutely. Well, Dan, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to jump on here. It means so much to me to have someone like yourself. As I mentioned, I've been a fan of yours from the beginning. I remember you fighting Carlos Newton, and I was impressed back then, and just the way you always conducted yourself and handled yourself. And, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come here and talk to us again on the MMA Power Hour. We really appreciate it.
No problem at all. I appreciate it. So thank you for having me, and have a good rest of the show.
Thanks so much, brother. Will do. Have a good night.
All right.
Thanks. And that was Dan Henderson, man. Such a treat, Adam. There are very few fighters that come on the show that I just feel so grateful for, like, almost like a kid, even though I'm actually a little bit older than Dan Henderson.
I'm so thankful for him coming on our show. This is his 4th time with us. That's absolutely huge. Yeah. And, we have a lot of these big time repeat guests. I would put him up there as probably the largest guest that we've had as a repeat guest. Yeah. I'm very thankful as well. And thank you, Dan. Speaking of thanks, I got to throw it out there real quick to all of you tuning in. Make sure to give us a like, comment, and share over on all of our social media, on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. It's just all at MMA Power Hour. I got something in my throat there. And also, thank you to our sponsors. For those of you who are coffee snobs like me, you should head on over to mymochatribe.com and try their coffee out. It is some of the best on the market. They are a partner of ours as well. So if you purchase a coffee through them, go ahead and get 10% off with MMA Power 10 and on checkout, and you're getting a nice little discount, but you're also supporting the show. So just wanted to throw that out there and say thank you to all for that in advance.
Absolutely good stuff, really good quality stuff, tasty and effective. Anyway, whenever you're ready, Doc, we want to get our next guest rocking and rolling.
Absolutely, we're just about there. I have to set some
not a problem
stuff.
But
Dan
here. Henderson, just a really, really good dude. One of the things I can tell you about some of these guys like Dan Henderson that have just wrestled for so many years and fought for so many years is that you don't get the full effect of how rugged and tough these guys are until you see them in person. I saw Dan Henderson like 10 years ago in person. I think I was sitting a couple feet away from him. And I just, I'm very observant when it comes to these things, having trained jiu-jitsu and martial arts all my life, but never being a professional fighter. He just looked so tough. He really looked like I could have surprised him and hit him as hard as I wanted to, and it wouldn't even have hurt him. And I was, always pretty strong guy at almost 200 pounds, and really strong, rugged individual. Guys like Dan Henderson are some of the toughest guys out there. That you
I would say he is in general, not guys like him. I would say he's probably top 3 toughest guys ever.
Yeah, it looks like I could have hit him. I felt like I could have hit him with a baseball bat and it wouldn't have hurt him.
Skype dance. Skype dance. There he is.
Hello there, Tony. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Awesome. Oh, there you go. You got the video. So let me give you a proper introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm super excited to have this next guest on the show for the very first time, joining a list of UFC champions and contenders. And that is something that this man very well could be from the way his career started. So we're super to have on the show, courtesy of his school, the American Top Team, the UFC, Bantamweight, who's exciting all kinds of people, and it looks like a true legit contender with a great fight coming up. We're talking about Mr. Tony Gravely. And did I say that right? Is it Gravely or Gravely? How do you say that last name?
It's actually Gravely, but
Gravely.
It does seem like Gravely. If I read it and didn't know my name, I would also say Gravely.
I appreciate you saying that, but it is Tony Gravely. I appreciate that, man. That's good, because it's better to be among gravel than to be in a grave. You don't want to be in a grave anytime soon, right?
That is correct.
I like it, man. Anyway, Tony, man, I really appreciate having you on here. You followed Dan Henderson. I don't know if you know that. We just had the legend on the show before you. So this is a popular show, a bunch of people that will have eyes on it. And, man, I like the way that you conduct yourself. You have been super polite and friendly in our correspondence leading up to this show. And I appreciate that. It's not that people are like crazy or try to be like, you know, treating the media like crap. But, you know, some people are just kind of like, yeah, you know, okay, this, that, the other. And you seem to be a guy that has respect for people and is upbeat. And that means a lot. I want to thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I guess I could credit that to my parents.
Yep, it's true. That's where it really comes. I grew up in Michigan, and my parents always told me that as well. You know, treat people the way you would want to be treated, and take it seriously. Because if you don't, and you make a habit of it, then you'll probably have a habit of people not treating you well, right?
You're exactly right. That's usually how it goes.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Where did you grow up? Where are you from? Where do you live now?
I'm originally from. I was born and raised in Martinsville, Virginia, which is like Southern Virginia. And I just I think end of last June, I just moved down to Florida, and I train at American Top Team now.
Cool. And was that your first time living outside of Virginia?
I pretty much, yeah. I lived outside of Virginia in college, but that doesn't really count, you know. As an adult, yeah, this is the first time, you know, I've lived outside of Virginia.
Excellent. And let me see if we can get there we go. So you're 29 years old, so you're still in your 20s, still a young man. And so living away from Virginia as an adult, how does that feel? I mean, obviously it's not like you're 18 or 19, so it's not that scary, but was it kind of strange? Was it at all like something that was unpleasant being so far away from your friends and family, or did it immediately, you know, go smooth to the point where it didn't bother you?
It's a little different because where I grew up, where I had lived before I moved, was a small town in Virginia, so super slow, not a lot of people. Everybody's kind of got that like Southern hospitality type thing. It's everybody, you know, just basic things that you know, think that you should do, like hold the door for people, thank you, you know,
like
all
Michigan,
all those things.
Polite people, good manners, everything, yeah.
Yes, sir. And now I live in Florida, so it's kind of completely different. It's a lot more people. They're nice people, but I don't know if it's because it's more people that you run into more people that aren't as nice.
Right.
So,
right. It's a big city.
Everybody isn't quite as polite and cordial, and you know, please, thank you, excuse me, hold the door. Right. Things like.
Yeah, I can relate, man, because I grew up in the suburbs outside of Detroit, and then in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and definitely the suburbs were smaller than the city of Detroit, and then Ann Arbor, Michigan was also smaller as well, and then, you know, being outside of Los Angeles, you know, where I've been for many years now, very, very different. Definitely a culture shock. I think a lot of it is you just have a bunch of a mix of people from different places that had different, you know, upbringings, and a lot of people that are just in a rush and that are busy and that kind of feel like they're almost in like they're like in fight day mode, as I'm sure you can relate, right, when you're in a fight. But I kind of feel like they shouldn't be. I think too many people being in fight day mode when they're not fighters and just ready to try to knock someone's head off, or, you know, it's not really a good thing. But I think that's kind of partly what it is. Not only that, man, you know what I think it also is? I think people are also less trusting and less comfortable with meeting people. Like I remember, you know, in Michigan, you'd say hi to strangers walking down the street. Hey, how you doing? You know? And right, I think in big cities, some people realize that, like, if you say that, then someone might come over to you and ask you for money, or someone might come over to you, right, and say, hey man, you know what? I just lost my job. I don't have any place to live. Can I come and stay at your place, you know? And you're going to, you know, so like I literally heard someone say that, say, I'm not going to be friendly to anyone in this big city. I don't want anyone asking me for money or to stay at my apartment, you know, right? And I'm like, I don't know that everyone is going to ask you for that if you just say hi. But I think that's kind of partially it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that could be it too. I mean, it's, I guess, you know, you get around so many people, and people take it some people take advantage of nice people, and then it starts from there. And then so people around here, I guess they're used to stuff like that, so they're just like, fine, I just won't say hey to anybody. I just keep do my own thing and stay in my own lane type thing. So
yep.
so.
But you know what? I think that a lot of the people appreciate the small town guys like you and me because we stand out. You know what I mean? And so I think you're appreciated by some. And then those that don't want to just say hello, then you'll never know what their thoughts are. But it is what it is. But now, before you were over at American Top Team, you were training what, out of school, out of Virginia, or somewhere else in Florida, or what?
Yes, it was a gym in Christiansburg, Virginia, called Tech MMA and Fitness Academy, and I trained there my whole career, from amateur to right at my first my UFC debut. And I just recently, last fight that I had last November was the first fight I ever fought under American Top Team, and with not at my original gym.
That must have been unusual, man, having to go into a different school, even though all of a sudden it's going to a top school. Did you have some nerves about that? Because all of a sudden you're in there with these different people, whereas before that you're in there with a lot of guys that you knew for probably many years. And, were you a little bit nervous about that, or hearing people say, man, all of a sudden you're at a new camp, you're thinking all this good stuff, and then you don't know what happens when you get in there and you didn't prepare well? What was your thought going into that fight camp for that last fight, the first one with American Top Team?
I mean, it was a little different. It was definitely, you have like this routine of how you do things, and now it's a little bit different. But I had been down to American Top Team, I think, maybe like twice, maybe like a year or so prior to me actually moving down. So I kind of knew a lot of the people that I would be training with all the time, and most of the coaches I'd already known and got introduced to. So it wasn't that big of a difference as far as being the new guy, because there's so many new people all the time,
right, coming
in and out. They do a really good job of introducing you to all the coaches and the staff, and they make sure that you get introduced to everyone, and that you're included in everything, and they let you know that there's so many different classes and workouts with all these different people, and they do a good job of getting you accustomed to everybody and helping get you included in everything. And so they do a great job. The way the gym is ran is it's like the most smooth thing I've ever seen. Dan Lambert, Richie Guerrero, Conan, they run it so smooth. It's it's hard not to succeed. If you don't succeed, or if you don't fit in and things don't work out, then you have to be the problem.
Yeah, it makes sense. They are such an amazing team there. And I interviewed Conan in person before an event last year, and then same with Mike Brown, interviewed him. And we had the wrestling coach, Steve Mako. Is he still there with you guys?
Yeah, Mako's still there.
Awesome.
It's crazy because I watched Mako when I was, I grew up wrestling. I wrestled majority of my life I spent wrestling. So I used to watch Mako wrestle back when he was in college and in the Olympics. So it's cool to, and I could say the same with all the other fighters and coaches as well, because I grew up watching fighting. So a lot of the coaches that are coaches now, I watched some of them fight as well. So it's kind of like a dream come true. It's crazy how, you kind of watch something and somehow life just puts you into it, and now you're involved with these people that you have seen so much and that you kind of think but you don't really know.
Right.
You see them on TV, and when you see them, you think oh, I know you, but not really. But now I actually know these people.
Right, exactly. Just like a lot of people will watch their favorite actors interviewed, and then they kind of think, I know him, I know her. And then you get a chance to meet them, and you don't really know them at all, But no, that must be a cool thing. Well, let's actually talk about that. Let's go down that rabbit hole, as they say, and see what your experience has been. You just disclosed that you were involved in wrestling for many years, and you were watching collegiate wrestling, but you were also watching MMA. Take me back to when you were in high school, and give me maybe a couple of minutes of maybe some of the higher points or more interesting things that can let the fans know about what your transition was like from whatever you were doing in high school athletically to learning some of the skill sets for MMA and when you started watching it and so on.
So I actually started watching MMA. I was probably 6 or 7 years old. My dad, my dad taught Taekwondo for ever since I was born. He had taught it, and he just recently kind of stopped. But so we grew up watching all kinds of fighting, MMA, boxing, martial arts movies. So fighting was something that I was introduced to and grew up watching. We didn't really watch any other sports. Didn't really watch basketball, football, any of that. It was all fight related. It was MMA and boxing. I was like back when it was Pride. It was UFC.
Yep.
King of the Cage were like
Strike
the
Force.
3 that I remember. And Strike. Yeah, this was actually, but I think this was maybe before Strike Force when I first started watching it.
Nice.
Those are the 3 that I remember. But Strike Force came along after. I think that was
07 or
as I got older.
Yeah, that's right, because Pride was over. Strike Force, I think, had just maybe crossed over with Pride for maybe a year, if that. Yeah, no, they did actually. They were Strike Force was actually Strike Force. The organization was a kickboxing organization first, and it's funny, man, because I remember, and I've been a lifelong martial artist myself, like yourself, not a professional fighter like you at any point, so I never try to lie about that. But but I remember I used to watch when I was very young, full contact karate, what they first called it, and then it was ISKA karate. That was the organization in International Sport Karate. And then all of a sudden one day, I think it was like maybe in like the early mid 90s, it said Strike Force, and I'm like, what is that? Is this like a special branch of the ISKA? And I didn't really think about it, because then it would have the same announcers and the same great kickboxing. But I learned that Scott Coker had been like a karate guy and had competed a little bit. I don't know whether it was full, regular kickboxing or point karate, but he had done that, and then he had started that organization, I think, in the mid 90s, and they had been around for about 11 or 12 years before they got into MMA. And I do think that their first MMA match may have been Frank Shamrock against Nick Diaz, like in 2006 or 7. But I do remember that when Pride disbanded, they were there, and as you remember, they got a bunch of the Pride people, especially the heavier weight guys over at Strike Force.
Yeah.
But so now let me ask you, being that your dad was a Taekwondo instructor, was that the first of all the skill sets you got into when you were younger? Was Taekwondo and then wrestling, or how did that sequence progression work out?
That was the first. I don't even know how old I was when I started Taekwondo, but it was like either right before or as I was going into kindergarten. And I only remember that because I remember my mom saying that they had to take me out of class for a little bit because I was fighting people in kindergarten.
Oh,
so,
no.
so I guess it had to have been, maybe, I'm sure he probably had me doing it at home as soon as I could walk,
Wow.
So probably like 3 or 4 is probably when I first started actually doing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that I did that all the way until 6th grade. And then I started wrestling in 6th grade.
Oh, wow. So
I wrestled 6th grade all the way through college. So I always wanted to get into MMA because I always thought it was really cool. And I used to actually, me and my buddies would either like fight in my backyard, or I had a key to my dad's his karate school, and we used to go in and fight in there. But
nice.
I always wanted to get into it, like actually go to a gym and train. But I always wrestled, and then I got a scholarship wrestling. So if I got hurt doing something like that, it wouldn't do too well. Wouldn't be too good if I couldn't wrestle. So I had to wait until after I was done with college before I could actually get into fighting.
And where did you wrestle in college?
I wrestled at Appalachian State.
Cool.
In Boone, North Carolina.
And what else? I'm sorry, I stepped over your words.
In Boone, North Carolina.
Very cool. Very cool. You know, my producer had a, the one producing the show tonight, my main executive producer and co-host, Dr. Adam Roorda, had a black belt in Taekwondo and then started wrestling as a kid as well. I think he continued to junior high and a little bit of high school, didn't continue through high school and college like you. But it's interesting because that's that similar background. And I know that he felt really good having that background, especially from being young, because then the striking comes natural to you and the wrestling comes natural to you. And I think that's something where that can give you a good advantage over several fighters in MMA, don't you?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think I'm always going to be a little biased towards wrestling, just because I did wrestling. I wrestled the majority of of my life from like 6th grade on, was when I've wrestled more than I've done Taekwondo. So, but anybody can see in fights, if the person that can dictate where the fight can take place, whether it's on the mat or feet, is usually the guy that does better. So, wrestling is huge. Striking is obviously really good as well. But I think wrestling is, people argue and say this one. Realistically, there's no art that's purely better than another. But I think wrestling is one of the most important things to have as far as dictating whether we're going to be on the mat or we're going to be on the feet.
Right, exactly. My producer's really shaking his head and agreeing with what you're saying, without a doubt. Yeah, it's really true. It's one of the most important bases in the sport. It always has been. At one point, the striking wasn't even relevant because everyone was being taken down. As the last dozen years or more has gone by, though, striking is becoming relevant as well. But that wrestling still is really important. So when you had the wrestling, and obviously you've embraced that, and you feel most passionate about that, but you still have your striking, and that does come into play. Let me ask you, when you're from a Taekwondo background, that is a little bit different than a lot of the people who just start learning one striking skill set, and it's Muay Thai. Did you spend any time learning Muay Thai? And if so, how has that complemented your Taekwondo, and what's your feeling overall about the striking skill set that you think is best?
Well, so I kind of had like a big gap in like the Taekwondo and then the wrestling. Well, between Taekwondo and me fighting now, it was kind of in a big gap. Wrestling was like that big gap,
right?
Where, but recently, when I first started doing MMA, our gym was mostly a kickboxing gym. So, my coach at the time, Perry Gibson, was a big kickboxer, and my other coach, Joel Sutherland, was really big in Muay Thai. So those are things that kind of the two were really good at both of those things, and kind of mix and match the things that work well for MMA and the things that don't. But one thing that I can say, I definitely, Taekwondo was the thing that I still remember, like almost all the stuff. I did so much of it. I think I actually have pretty good kicks. I don't kick enough in fights, but I think I have pretty good kicks, and it comes from Taekwondo.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a unique skill set. I think you have people like Lyoto Machida, who's in Bellator now, and people like Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, Michelle Karate Hottie Watterson, and you can see their skill set is different and unique, and is actually more effective. Not putting down Muay Thai, because I trained in Muay Thai for a year and a half or so, but it does seem like it does give you guys kind of a unique skill set there. As far as something that's going to surprise people with your kicks and your movements and your distance and like that. The only one thing that I've heard is when a friend of mine was criticizing, I shouldn't say criticizing, a friend of mine was making an observation on Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. And he said, man, the guy is so great, except for if someone can really crowd him and shut off his distance. Then, then he's looking like he's just trying to he's like a fish out of water trying to get that distance back. And a friend of mine said, if Wonderboy could somehow get his Muay Thai going, where he could switch his mindset if someone takes the distance away from him, and then start going for the Thai head plum and the clinch and the elbows and knees and like that, how amazing that would be. But is that something that is even reasonable to think someone can do or would want to do?
No, I mean, yeah, I think that is reasonable. It could be that at this point, I know he wants to keep space. That's where he's better at. But it could only help to, when that space is closed, to have more threats like knees and elbows and things like that. But at the end of the day, he does better with range. But it couldn't hurt to, if that distance is closed, to create enough threat to get back to where you are the most comfortable.
Absolutely. And would you say that you've implemented some Muay Thai with the Taekwondo that can kind of allow you to be comfortable at all ranges?
Yeah, I mean, MMA, I guess you don't have to be great everywhere to be the best, but you have to be able to use at least a little bit of everything. And, I think just as I'm still actually pretty new to fighting overall. I've only I think I've been fighting for a total of, like, doing MMA, actually training MMA. I think 2014 was the first time I had ever like joined a gym and started.
Wow. Right.
So I'm still pretty new, and I'm still learning implementing. And everybody should still be continuously learning. Like, that's martial arts. It's a lifelong thing, and you're learning, whether it's kicks and punches or philosophy or anything like that. But every day I'm trying to implement something that doesn't matter whether we're close, far, I'm on top, I'm on the bottom, whether I have a plum, or either way, like trying to find a way to threaten somebody and do something that can finish the fight or put the fight in my favor, no matter where it's at.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you said that, because that's one thing I want people to know, is that in the bantamweight division, as you probably everyone knows, the lighter weight you get, it's going to be the opposite of Francis Ngannou, hitting you, ending things with one punch, right? Nevertheless, though, fights can end, but still, it seems like in the lighter weights, not a ton of guys are finishers, but you're one of those guys. You have a record of 20-6. Out of your 20 wins, you have 11 finishes. And that's really, really something in the bantamweight division. Not only that, but I think in your last 10 wins, you've got like 7 or 8 finishes, man. So you're a finisher at bantamweight. How do you explain that? Why are you doing something that most guys are not doing in that weight class?
I think a lot of my finishes are I just go. I just work. I outwork people. I say this all the time. I'm not the best fighter. I'm not the best striker. I'm not the best wrestler, but I just don't quit. I keep going, and a lot of people can't keep the pace that I put, and they can't keep up with the pressure. And I just go, and I just go. I strike as much as I can. I control as much as I can until either they quit or something opens up. But I just keep moving. I'm always trying to dominate. Like, there was one point where before I started finishing, I was just out there to win, to win.
Right.
I take them down and I stay on top of them, and that was it. I just wanted to win. It's like taking them down, like, all right, let's hook the round in soon. And you got to hold them for 5 minutes or however much time. But I just finally got to where I was just like, you know what? I just want to hurt people. Yep. I just want to go in there and beat them up.
Yep.
And when I changed that mentality to that, I'm not looking to finish people. I'm not going out there recklessly doing things. I'm just putting pressure on somebody and creating strikes and damage until something gets through.
Right.
So I just strike. If I have the endurance to throw 1,000 strikes, I'll throw 1,000 strikes. If 500 get in, great. Like if 900 gets in, great. I'll just, as many as it takes to get the job done. But a lot of people aren't. A lot of people don't like that. A lot of people don't like being uncomfortable. Nobody likes being uncomfortable. But I've learned to be comfortable getting uncomfortable. And if we're both uncomfortable in a fight, my opponent and I guarantee I'm going to be the most comfortable out of that uncomfortability. You know, and that's how I approach fighting and getting finishes.
I like that. That reminds me of when I was speaking with a fellow bantamweight in the UFC, Marlon Chito Vera. I'm sure you're familiar with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I spoke with him about a year ago in an interview on our show, and he said something interesting. He said, I'm willing to put myself in some bad positions, or some not made necessarily bad, but some challenging positions, and take some risks so that I can get the finishes. And he said, I think a lot of people are not willing or wanting to do that. And I think you share that mindset, right?
Yes, sir. That's the thing. A lot of people don't want to do that. Nobody wants to put themselves in a situation where the risk is high, because that's just human nature. You know, nobody wants to just recklessly take chances. And it's not even that's reckless, but you know, if people want to be comfortable, the average person doesn't go out and look for uncomfortability. But you know, fighters usually some of the better fighters are more crazy than other people, and they kind of look for that uncomfortability, because that's what makes you you know, you push that wall back, and now it takes more to get uncomfortable. Now you're used to it, so now you know it's not that big of a deal. But you fight somebody that isn't used to that, they're going to be in some trouble. And to be successful in anything in life, really, more specifically fighting, for me, just because that's what I do, is you have to do that. That's how you grow.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of a risk reward thing too, man. It almost seems like in life, to try to get a bigger reward, there has to be somewhat of a bigger risk. And I'd like to go into that, because I think this is something that a lot of people are curious about and don't talk too much about. Can you tell me some of the things that an MMA fighter might be doing that has a mindset like you and Chito Vera, as far as what it means to be taking these risks and putting yourself in the position? I'm going to let you answer that, but you know, like, I think I could think of one thing almost where, like, all of a sudden, you could be just putting your hands to the side and putting your chin out like Anderson Silva, although I don't think that's necessarily one of them. Or in jiu-jitsu, you could maybe almost be like baiting someone in, or maybe you could almost be like inviting someone to shoot in on your legs by putting your legs out there and saying, here they are, man, I'm going to stand square right at you. I mean, are those some of the things? Or I don't want you to give away secrets that you don't want to, but what are some of the details that might be some examples of fighters that are willing to put themselves in somewhat risky positions to get the reward of being able to stop their opponent?
Those are some of the things. Those things to me are a little extreme. I don't do stuff like that. You know, I'm really big on hands up at all times, things like that. But for me, it's more of just pulling the trigger, like going for submissions. Like in fights, for example, when fights go later, nobody wants to throw kicks anymore. So throwing kicks, you know, throwing a lot of volume of strikes when your arms start to get heavy. You know, just putting yourself in a situation where, because when you see a fight and it's in the later rounds, nobody wants to keep throwing a bunch of punches. You know, they want to kind of chill out. Most fighters,
right?
But just putting yourself in situations like that by continuing to be disciplined in like things that you're doing,
right?
Still going for submissions. Doing moves, and I'm not big on doing moves that are like really flashy and put yourself out there, like you know, like I'm not into like flying knees and things
spinning
like that,
stuff, or too much stuff like that.
But yeah, but those are things sometimes when the fight's really close and somebody's got really good defense, you got to do stuff like that to like make them react, or you know, to break the monotony of the fight. So sometimes it takes things like that, but I'm not really big on things like that, but if I had to, you know, I have things like that in my arsenal if I need to do those things.
Just also maybe being willing to stand in the pocket, because that's one thing obviously we know about Chito Vera is for the most part the last 5 years, you're not going to hurt Chito Vera. He's going to stand in the pocket if he wants to, and that's going to be the way that goes. And I think that you're probably yourself and also guys like Justin Gaethje have that confidence where you can do that, and I guess that might be part of it, because I think if you're standing in the pocket, you are putting yourself in someone's line of fire, but by doing that, you're going to maybe give them some confidence to say, oh, he's going to put his face in my line of fire, he's going to step into my range, great, let me open up. And when they open up, that's when you can finish them. Is that kind of a part of the mindset?
Yeah, that's the same way as well. I mean, if you're in somebody's face, people don't, even though like you're close, like if you're in the pocket and you're close enough for somebody to hit you, you can also hit them as well, you know. And people don't like that pressure. Some people don't like when somebody's right on them, especially when you if somebody has a pretty good defense and you start throwing strikes, and it's easy to get tired. It's easy to get tired just from someone's physical presence coming forward. You have to react to that. If you're in the pocket, you're both in the pocket. It's not just you're sitting duck in the pocket. You're also throwing things as well. So you also have to produce enough threat to where they are more uncomfortable, because you're pushing forward and you're also throwing strikes. So knees, takedowns, or whatever it is. So it's all about perspective, you know, in the pocket too as well. Some people, you know, they'll take one to give two, or take one to give one because they know theirs is going to be harder.
Absolutely.
So it all just depends on your mindset and how you approach fighting, and how comfortable you are with your defense or your abilities or your power, speed, whatever it is.
Interesting. Makes a lot of sense. Definitely. That's a lot of good detail, and I really appreciate that. So let's make sure we shout out that you are going to be fighting on April 17th, a week from Saturday, against Anthony Burchak. And I'm really excited about that fight, man. That's going to be an interesting matchup. Burchak last fought in November. He is coming off a loss in his UFC debut against Gustavo Lopez. And then his other fights were in Combates Americas. He has a good record. He has an interesting story, I think. He's a guy who was in the UFC years back. And so he's fought pretty much everyone in the top. Alameda. He fought Kawajiri, who I know you probably watched back in those days, watching the fights in Japan. And then he kind of had, went out of the UFC and came back. Let me see real quick if you go up. There we go. So he's 16-7. He's 34 years old. So he's kind of a unique guy in that he got a chance when he was a little bit younger than you to be in the UFC. He got booted out of there. And now all of a sudden he's back. Tell us a little bit about what kind of a challenge he represents, and what do you think this? How do you think this fight's going to go? What do you think of Anthony Burchak's skills, and also the fact that he's back in the UFC? He lost his first fight. He really is looking for a win in the UFC, but you're looking to go 2-1 in the UFC. What's the mindset, do you think, of both of you in this fight, and what do you think about Anthony Burchak and what he presents?
I think he's a tough guy. I mean, at this level, everybody's tough. You know, it's expected to not have any easy ones now. You know, we've worked. It's crazy with this sport. The higher you get, the harder it is. You know, it doesn't get any easier. You know, so everybody at this level is tough, and I respect the fact that he was in the UFC. And then he got released, and he worked his way back up. And I think he's definitely a veteran. He's been fighting. It's crazy because he's been fighting longer than I have, but I think I have more fights.
Right.
So
right.
I got really busy really fast. I got really busy in a short amount of time with my career. But I think I know he's going to be tough, and I know he is a great grappler. But I'm not a big jiu-jitsu guy, but I like to say I'm a pretty good grappler. So, it should be fun.
Without a doubt, it should be a good matchup. Now, your one loss by submission was by the rear naked choke. Was that a short notice fight, and was that in the bantamweight division against Brett Johns, or what was that about?
No, it was. I think I had a full. Yeah. Was fully ready to prepare for that. Okay. It was a fight. I knew Brett was going to be a really tough guy going into it. His only two losses were at the time, I think, still are to two tough guys.
Definitely, really good.
Sterling and Pedro Munoz.
Yeah, so. That's all the guys that beat him were the world beaters, killers like that. Yeah.
So I knew he was going to be tough. Like I knew that going into it, and I wanted. That's a fight I wanted, and I think we split the first 2 rounds, and unfortunately, the last round got put in a bad position and couldn't get out of it, and he fought hard, and he got my neck and submitted me.
Yeah,
but it was a good fight, and it was good for me to kind of gauge where I was. I know he was formerly ranked, and he got injured, and I guess that's pretty much the only reason why he, I guess, wasn't ranked. He never lost to lose his rank. He just was injured and out for a little bit, and he was removed from the rankings.
Right. Otherwise, he would have been a ranked opponent. Yeah, very talented guy like yourself. And you were still only fighting out of the small school in Virginia for that fight. So I have a feeling with ATT, American Top Team there, you're going to be getting some looks on the jiu-jitsu mat, and maybe you'll see Brett Jones down the line and can go and get that one back. I'm sure that would be fun. Does that ever occur to you? Is that ever thing in your head where you're like, man, I want to get that back, if it could be 2 years from now, next year? Or do you just say, hey, it'd be great too, but I'm not going to think about that much?
No, every loss I've had, I've always wanted to get it back. I'm one of those people that, like if I lose to somebody, it's like, oh no, we can go again, type thing. But I'm not sure if we'll cross paths again, but you never know. I know he fights for Bellator now, and I wish him the best of luck. And actually, I still follow his career. He still follows mine. So,
yep.
We may cross paths, never know. But, I hope to stay in the UFC.
Yes.
That's my goal.
Makes sense.
I don't know where he's going to end up, but I'm looking to stay in the UFC. So
yeah, without a doubt, it makes sense, and you never know. We train together at some point. It is interesting. That was for your UFC debut fight. I don't know some of the weird things they're doing like that. UFC used to kind of look at that and say, okay, this man has a pretty good record, but he's making his UFC debut. Let's not, throw him a guy who has like 8 UFC wins or something like that. But then lately it seems like they're like, okay, whatever, man, this guy looks tough, let's just throw him this super experienced guy. But the bottom line is you were hanging in there, and like you said, just got caught. But your first fight with American Top Team, you look good against another very impressive guy, De Freitas. Were you confident that you had earned that decision, or did you feel that could have been either way, or right on the wire, on the fence?
Yeah, I mean, I was confident that I thought that I had won every round, and I thought that it was a unanimous decision. But you never know, I got the split decision, but which I was shocked by. But I thought I did enough. But he was tough. Which I knew he was going to be tough. Like I said, everybody at this level was tough, and that fight, as far as how the heavy grappling exchanges, is kind of what I expected. Pretty sure he was a black belt, and I like to get it to the ground, so that's kind of what I expected. I knew he wouldn't give up, and but I thought I did enough to win across the board. But I think one of the judges thought otherwise. So, well, luckily it worked out in our favor.
Absolutely. We got about 5 minutes left with you, Tony. So I'm going to throw some questions at you here. First, I definitely think you looked even more comfortable on the ground in that De Freitas fight, man. So I think you're going to be good there. Ironically enough, Burchak has these wins by rear naked choke, but he also has losses by rear naked choke. Funny enough, so that'd be cool if you could get that on him. But I think that at ATT, you're going to get some really good looks. Can you tell us who's helping you with this camp over there?
I work out with everybody. So, I'm actually watching one of the guys right now. That's why I moved. Adriano Moraes is fighting right now. He's fighting Mighty Mouse right now. Oh, wow. Oh, they're about to fight. And actually, that's why I moved over here so I could see and talk to you. But, a lot of guys like Adriano's helped me. Alessandro Pantoja.
Nice.
Kyoji Horiguchi.
Wow. These are killers.
Giuseppe Formiga. These are all the top of the top.
These are all, those are all killers. Every single one of those guys.
Yeah, Pedro Munoz, Marlon Moraes. The cool thing is, these guys they've been preparing for fights, so I've been helping them as well. So It's like a mutual you know, I helped Adriano a little bit leading up to his fight. We sparred a couple times, and so getting to help those guys along with them helping me, it's a really cool experience. But a lot of really good, lot of killers, a lot of really good guys, and it's just it's hard not to improve with so much talent and so many tough fighters around you and coaches.
Without a doubt, and it's so great that these guys are like all bantamweights or featherweights, you know, or you know, flyweights. It's like just what you need. Speaking of which, when you're a bantamweight, I guess you can get looks from all kinds of guys, but would you say normally you want to stick with training with flyweight, bantamweight, featherweight, maybe lightweight, and that's about it, or not even lightweight?
I think usually there's so many people that I really shouldn't have to end up going with somebody as big as a lightweight,
right?
Because there's so many people. But I have been with lightweights though, because sometimes you get in like multiple man groups, and sometimes it's a bigger guy in there, you know. But it's good to get looks and feels from different people. But obviously, like, you know, 155 is probably the highest, just because you don't want to accidentally get injured or anything like that. But most of the time, there's so many flyweight and bantamweights that there's really no need to not necessarily not a need, but you don't like accidentally run into like, oh well, there's nobody else, so you know I got to go with this person. Very seldom does that happen.
That's good. That's one of the great things about having a big group like American Top Team. Cool. Last couple minutes here. Let me get your opinion on this weekend's fights, if that's all right.
Yes, sir.
All right, so let's start. Maybe give me the middle. Okay, so let's look at D-Rod, a guy that we've had on the show. He's a cool guy, Daniel Rodriguez. I don't know if you know him personally or not. He's a West Coast guy, so you probably don't. But D-Rod against Platinum Mike Perry, man, that's just going to be crazy. I have a feeling that's going to be a war. It's going to be bloody. D-Rod is very confident that he's going to do whatever it takes to beat Mike Perry. But if he says that Mike Perry wants to make that a war, jump in the fire, he'll jump right in there. All right, so I have a feeling that's going to be crazy exciting. How do you think that fight plays out real quick, and then a prediction if you have it, maybe in like 30 seconds or so?
That's going to be a really good fight. I think both of their styles are like, nobody's going to back down and they're going to brawl. I think the difference though, I think Daniel Rodriguez probably has the better gas tank at this point. I'm not sure like where Mike Perry's been training, but I feel like lately he hasn't been as good as he was when he first started.
Right.
So I actually like Mike Perry because he's so wild, you know. But I think that Daniel Rodriguez is probably going to win this fight. Yeah. And I think it's going to be mostly because of his endurance.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, you follow the women at all? How about the jiu-jitsu specialist Mackenzie Dern against Amanda Nunes' wife, Nina Ansaroff?
Well, I'm going to go with Nina. Nina's the American Top Team.
That's right. I was going to say, you have to be a little biased on that.
And I actually know Nina. And I've worked with her a little bit leading up to this. I'm best at jiu-jitsu, but I'm a wrestler, so I usually end up wrestling and grappling a lot of the people.
Nice.
But she's really tough. And it's crazy because she had a baby and then she lost all that weight so fast. It's crazy how women can have babies and just lose all of the weight and look super fit in no time. You know?
It's true.
But she still, I think she still worked out. She stayed in shape. She still dieted, and she looked great. She still feels strong. I've seen her spar. She looks great.
Right.
And I think there's enough. There's so, like you talked about earlier, so many good people at the gym that, you know, even though Mackenzie Dern's really good jiu-jitsu, there are also other really good people at jiu-jitsu at the gym. So she'll be prepared for the jiu-jitsu.
Gotcha. Good to know.
Do enough to nullify it.
I think so too. The one quick question: this is going to be at strawweight or her usual weight class, or is she going up to flyweight for this? Do you know?
I'm not sure. It's has Mackenzie?
Yeah, she's been up at flyweight lately.
I think she is now at flyweight. I don't think she Has she fought at strawweight?
Yeah, Mackenzie has. They're actually
weight?
listing this fight as a strawweight fight because that's where Nina's been. Yeah, I have a feeling Nina probably wouldn't accept a big fight at flyweight for her first flyweight fight. So I have a feeling that, yeah, she's probably back down at strawweight. And yeah, I think Nina can stay away from her. Tatiana Suarez had a hard time getting Nina down, and Mackenzie Dern doesn't have any kind of takedowns like Tatiana Suarez. The only thing people are questioning is Nina going to be super compromised and super diminished from having a baby? But from what you've seen, you don't feel so, huh?
Nah, it's probably she's got mommy strength now. They both have mommy strength. I think she. And another thing too, you think about like that, and it goes for Mackenzie too because she also has a baby. But like now, I can only imagine the extra motivation it is, to have a child and to have like, and it's not that whatever she does will make or break her up, like bringing the child up, but just, that's extra motivation. You look at having a kid, and you have to be an example for your child. And I know that she's still a baby, but I feel like that's extra motivation to work harder and to want to do better. Absolutely.
We got to let you go in about 1 minute, but give me a quick less than 1 minute breakdown. The main event: Kevin Holland, Marvin Vettori.
Kevin Holland's tough. But Marvin Vettori looks so good against Hermanson. I think it was his last fight. So I'm going to go Vettori. I think it's going to go is it a 5-round fight?
Yes, main event.
I think it's going to go all 5 rounds, and I'm going to give it to Vettori.
Interesting. Well, it should be a great fight, man. Hey, I really want to thank you so much. Fighting out of the American Top Team, UFC Bantamweight, with a big fight coming up April 17th against Anthony Burchak. We're talking about Mr. Tony Gravely. Tony, I really appreciate you. Really impressed by what you have to say. You seem like a great guy, and we'll be cheering for you here on the MMA Power Hour. Please stay in touch, man. We'd love to have you back on sometime in the future.
Thank you much. I truly appreciate the support and their coverage. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome, my friend. Keep on the good training, and we look forward to watching you catch the W on the 17th.
Thank you. Yes, sir. I'll do my best.
Awesome. Have a great night.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks so much. And that was Tony Gravely. Very, very good guy, Dr. Adam Roorda. A lot of good stuff to say. Easygoing guy. He's with a team of killers over there at the American Top Team. Wow. All those people.
For sure, man.
Everyone he mentioned there. I mean, you got Adriano Moraes, who's fighting Demetrius Johnson, defending his one championship title. I guess he threw out there Pantoja and several other amazing, just Pedro Munoz, gee, Mani. Moraes, just a ton, and so a lot of killers. A lot.
I saw him kind of looking sideways too, and you're talking about distance. I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, taekwondo, there's levels to it, right? You hit a certain level, and there's taekwondo, I'd say brown belt, you start learning the close proximity stuff. You don't need that distance. So it depends on how extensively trained you are in that. So I saw him just being like, I see what you're saying. I get it.
But they do, but you're saying they do more close distance in taekwondo than I was assuming. Yep. Yeah, it's possible. I was never a taekwondo guy. I trained some in hapkido and kempo and Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
The base of taekwondo is meant for distance, for sure.
Right, that I knew. That's what I always heard.
But once you get to a certain level,
you're learning some closer.
You're learning a ton of close range striking and also avoiding. So it's actually very, very effective from my own experience in close range as well, but only at a certain level. But yeah, let's get to this. Do
some breakdowns here?
Yeah, let's get to this weekend's fights.
Gotcha. Real quick, I was going to say before we do that, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and Lyoto Machida then maybe are not doing taekwondo. It sure looks kind of like it. I'm almost positive Stephen Thompson was that, but then both of those guys seem to only like to compete at a distance, and so maybe they weren't.
That might be personal to them, and
it could be. I know that Stephen is so unorthodox and tricky. Well, both of them found that they were so elusive that they basically their game of staying out of the pocket was so effective because guys would get frustrated, try to come in, and then they'd counterpunch them. Maybe it's their counterpunching style that kind of forced both Machida and Thompson to want.
Stephen Thompson's more of a karate guy.
I guess you're right. Yeah. Okay.
So that's probably why. I mean, karate is definitely a distance game for
That's
the majority of people.
That makes sense. And then Machida, although I think his style looked a little bit more Taekwondo.
He is more Taekwondo.
But it was his father's style, Machida karate.
Right.
So yeah, but interesting. Okay, but let's and wow, Wonder Boy against Gilbert Burns, July 10th, man. July is going to be huge.
That's going to be huge.
They just signed Macy Chasson to go against a top girl. Who was it? Who was I can't. I was just announced. Macy Chasson has got someone really big at bantamweight. Is it Juliana Pena or something? No, I don't think it's Pena. But
we'll find out real quick because we have it right here on our own website.
That's right. Let's see.
Let's see what Ross put out for us.
Macy Chasson against. That's it. Aspen Ladd.
How could we forget that?
Yeah, that's a fight. I tell you what, Macy's got to be sharp as attack in that fight because that's jumping up a level. Aspen Ladd has fought the better people. Is more experienced.
Macy deserves this fight though.
Yeah, that's gonna be a huge fight. If Macy wins, then she's gonna immediately have a number next to her name because I think right now Aspen's like 4th, maybe. Top 4, top 3, top 5, and I think Macy is 10 or 11 or 12 or something.
Ladd is 3.
Wow, yeah. And Macy's what, 12 or something?
I think she is 12. She's either 11 or 12.
Yeah,
and for our rankings, I think we have her at like 9 or 10.
Yeah. So that's gonna be a big, exciting fight. But let's jump in here. So Bellator, a lot of these fighters people don't know, but some of them they do. Cat Zingano, the Alpha Cat, huge favorite, -8, anywhere from -700 to -1,000. And then the comeback on Olivia Parker, plus anywhere from +500 to +600. I haven't looked into this Olivia Parker yet. I'm gonna look into it because it's always great to put down $20
on a dog like
that and come back with $160 or like that. But Olivia Parker, I mean, there's also the thought that I was kind of mentioning to you before we went on the air. Over at Bellator, I think that Scott is looking at things a little bit more like boxing than MMA, not in all regards because it's a great organization for MMA, but he's looking at it as trying to build fighters, and they just brought Kat over there. I don't think she's had her first fight yet in Bellator, and I really have a feeling they know that she's the A side here, as they say, and that they can build something out of her. How old is she now, though? 36 or 7? Kat Zingano? I mean, she's got to be 38. That's not a young fighter. And then I think this is at bantamweight, although I think she's over there to fight at featherweight. Anyway, Olivia Parker is a smaller fighter. Olivia Parker is 39 years old. Yeah, I hate to say it. I think this is a crush. I think there's
it's a crush. I think the odds makers have that one right.
Yeah, but I no disrespect to Scott and the Bellator. I don't like those crushes. I like to leave them in boxing where you have someone in there against someone that they can easily beat. But then,
they have another one on that card too that's similar.
Julia Budd I like Julia though. I interviewed her face to face. Yeah, Diana Silva. Anyway, it is what it is. You never know. Okay, let's go to Adam Borics. Borics is a tough guy. Who the heck is Jeremy Kennedy? Can you pull them up? Adam Borics was killing it until he ran into our friend Juan Archuleta. I believe we did have Juan on the show. I know I interviewed him face to face. I'm not sure whether we interviewed him on the show or not, but Jeremy Kennedy and Borics. Okay, here's Jeremy Kennedy. He's out of Scorpion MMA. He's fighting out of British Columbia, Canada. So what has he got? So he's over from the PFL, where he did pretty well, winning 3 out of 4, and then he comes into Bellator. He beats Matt Bassett, who is a tough guy, and that was about 6 months ago. Let's see how old he is. He's 28 years old, 5'11", a tall featherweight, but basically a good record. When was the last time he lost? He lost in 2019. Oh wow, he fought Alexander Volkanovski. He got stopped by Volk in the UFC, so he was in the UFC. So this kid, I thought I had recognized that name. Jeremy Kennedy, if you go down a little bit lower so I can see a couple more fights. Stop. Okay. So he was in the UFC. His first fight was in 2016. He decisioned someone named Alessandro Ricci. Then he did beat a guy who was a very tough guy Hani Mariano Bezerra, and he beat Bezerra. Then he came in and beat a tough guy, Kyle Bochniak. So he was killing it. Then he ran into the future world champion, Volkanovski, and he got stopped in the second. There's no shame in that. And that was it. Did they boot him out of the UFC right after that? After they did. That's kind of crappy.
It's kind of crappy, but he might have made the choice himself.
I guess, although you don't, unless Brave offered him all kinds of money. I don't know how the hell. That's unfortunate. But anyway, so he starts winning. He wins, comes back. Bellator picks him up. He's a tall, lanky guy with a good record, a lot of experience. Let's go to Borix. So
Okay.
Borix is 27 years old, 5'11" also. He's over there at Sanford MMA, man. That is killers. That is killer. So and it wasn't Archuleta that he lost to. It was our friend Darion Caldwell, who we did have on the show. I remember we were there. I was there for that fight, and he was really upset. Borix was really pissed. He was yelling for people to stop putting the camera in his face after he got subbed, and he got subbed quickly by Darion Caldwell. He's come back and he's won 2 fights, although not in any super amazing style. Got a split decision over a guy named Mike Hamill. And then he got a unanimous decision against Eric Sanchez. I still think Borix is a beast. I mean, he's a really good fighter. But they've got Kennedy a favorite over him here. Is that it? I mean, Kennedy doesn't seem like he's a scrub by any means.
He's not a scrub by any means. I think experience in this case is going to come in and win this one. I think he's fought at the higher level. I think he's going to come in. I think the odds makers have it the same way.
Pretty close. I mean, it's pretty close. Just a 1.5 to 1 favorite, not even.
It's not a huge favorite, but in this case, it is kind of. I mean,
this is
UFC fighters league of their own, right?
Yeah.
So him coming in with the experience there and his loss in the UFC coming from such a huge name there is kind of an advantage Kennedy in my opinion. So what about these other 2 fights?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Liz Carmouche and Vanessa Porto?
I got you. Before I say that, we have a funny comment of the night. One guy asked, is this father and son? No, this is not my son. I may be old, but I'm probably
I'm his dad.
Yeah, he's my dad. I'm his son, yeah. But thank you for the comment, Michael. I guess this is a day that I'm looking old and fat. I'll have to work on that, but thank you. Anyway, so Jeremy Kennedy.
You weren't even born yet.
Yeah, I know it's the case. The corona weight, I've got to get rid of.
Just a glimmer in your mother's eye.
I tell you, man, that's right. All right,
and also on that note, why are the views of this show so low? They're not. They're actually pretty good altogether.
Yep.
Right now, help us get the word out. Go over to our social media, like, comment, and share. It's just at MMA Power Hour. Get words out. Share this directly from whatever platform. I see that comment was over there on YouTube on the Hannibal TV. Make sure to share. Get word out. We're fairly new to the Hannibal TV. We're also on Fight TV. We are not replayed. This is all live.
Yep. Absolutely. So we're definitely starting to get a lot of people watching. Not everyone watches live. There are live events that happen to be going on during this show.
We've only got a few minutes, so let's go through these real fast. Right. Liz Carmouche and Vanessa Porto.
That's going to be rough, man. I think they got Carmouche the favorite. I'm going to go the other way. Vanessa Porto.
I am too.
Rough fight. Really good fight, though. Porto's a beast. Porto is this is a big fight for her with one of the bigger name people, with Carmouche being the woman that was in that very first UFC women's fight ever against Ronda Rousey. And so she's got a big name from that. This is going to be a great win for Porto.
And my next pick here with Lyoto Machida against Ryan Bader. I know I'm going against you on this one, I think.
No, I doubt it.
Oh, I'm going with Machida.
Wow. Yes, you are going against me. I just don't know.
We talked about it last week, and I'm going with Machida on this one.
You never know. Machida would have to pull a rabbit out of a hat to win.
I think he's going to.
He could. You never know. He might. I got Bader. All right, UFC. This weekend's UFC. There we go. Okay. Starting, where do you want to start? The middle? Where are we? Oh, yeah, start in the middle maybe.
Yeah, let's start in the middle. Let's start with the fight that you talked about earlier with D-Rod against Mike Perry.
Yeah,
you know what?
It's going to be such a crazy fight, man.
It is going to be a crazy fight. I have to go with the favorite on this one, D-Rod. I really think is going to pull this off. I don't think Mike Perry has it in him. I think he's on his way out, honestly.
Yeah, he very well could be training, having only his girlfriend in his corner for a couple fights. I don't know whether that's the plan this time, but D-Rod is coming at him. I think D-Rod may use some wrestling if need be in this fight. I think he's the more balanced fighter. It's going to be crazy though, but I think D-Rod's got it. Should be a good fight though. D-Rod almost a 2-1 favorite, so look forward to that. Nina Ansaroff, as we were talking about, I didn't realize, ATT, our last guest, Tony Gravely, actually has trained a little bit with her because they're only 2 weight divisions apart, and he's over there and he says she's looking great. I think this is a strawweight fight. Mackenzie, I think, wants to be a strawweight, although I think she's had 2 or 3 fights at flyweight. Maybe not her last one, but I don't think that Nina is going to come back and jump to a new division and face a top 10 person there like Mackenzie Dern. So this has to be strawweight. So the question is Mackenzie going to make the weight? I think if Mackenzie misses weight substantially, Nina's corner should say, we're not taking it. We're not taking this fight. Mackenzie has played that bullshit before, and that better not happen. So I think if Mackenzie makes weight, Nina's gonna just piece her up. Nina Ansaroff.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Julian Marquez against Sam Alvey.
I hate that fight. Our 2 guests on our show in the past, Sam Alvey, Smiling Sam, is over at Team Quest with Dan Henderson, coming back down to middleweight. I know that Dan did agree he's not that big for weight cutting, so I think he didn't have a detailed answer, but I know, and I've asked him before, he would love a 195 weight class, would have loved it for him and would love it for the other fighters out there. That would be perfect, I think, for
who do you have on this one?
For these guys. Oh man,
I'm going with Smiling Sam.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Smiling Sam, but it's gonna be a war.
It is gonna be a war.
Yeah,
it is gonna be
James
a war.
Krause is cornering one side, Dan Henderson probably in the corner on the other side.
Between the Marquez Alvey fight and the D-Rod Mike Perry fight, I don't know which one's gonna get fight of the night, but I think they have a high probability, both of them,
very possibly,
for getting fight of the night. I do think Sam Alvey's gonna pull this one off against Marquez.
He's just a little bit bigger as a middleweight, whereas in the last fight, Marquez was the bigger man.
Yep.
All right, Sadiq Youssef against Arnold Allen. What a great fight that's going to be, man. That's a battle of 2 really hot prospects. I've been really impressed with Sadiq Youssef, his striking. I've also been really impressed with Arnold Allen, his overall game. I think I'm going to go for Arnold Allen to pull the upset in that one. Wouldn't put much money on it, though.
No, I'm not putting any money on that fight for sure. Really with that, I don't know who's going to pull that one off. Colin, let's just go to not the main event next.
Right.
Let's do guest from 2 weeks ago, Kyle Dacus against
we had both
Ali
the Dacus
Skab
brothers on against Ali Skab, Kisriev. Yeah, Kyle Dacus, he was on our show. He's a great guy. His brother Chris is also a great guy. They're killing it out of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, I think. Dacus is a slight dog. I think he's going to do it. I think he's just going to
I think he's going to do it as well. It's a lot of people with the odds makers probably an X factor, but I think he should be a favorite in this one. A couple of the books have him as even pretty much.
That's pretty close. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Dacus, I think, in a tough fight, but I think Dacus is just going to be too balanced and too physically strong for Ali Skab Kisriev. Jorgen De Castro, I don't even know who Jari is.
Let's just go to the main event here. Kevin Holland against Marvin Vettori.
Okay.
I am taking the dog on this one.
Kevin.
I'm going to go with Kevin. I think he is going to pull it off. Not only with him being a previous guest, but I think he's really coming back with vengeance off his last loss. I think he is fully prepared, and just him on these short notice fights, man. It's just
that's his wheelhouse.
That's his wheelhouse, and he's ready to go. I've been watching him closely behind the scenes. We have access to some stuff that a lot of other people don't. It's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. But I think Kevin's fully prepared for this mindset in a way that I haven't seen him. So
excuse me, and very, very motivated.
The motivation is a huge thing.
Oh yeah, he's not wanting back-to-back losses.
Vettori's a beast, but Kevin's a whole different kind of beast on his own.
Yeah,
I really think he's going to pull this one off. So realistically, I would say my dog picks are Kyle Dacus and Kevin Holland and Sam Alvey. All 3 of those will be my dog picks. I'd probably parlay it with D-Rod. That's probably what I would do.
Yeah, I like those. I like those picks. I'm with you on those. I think that it's going to be interesting because Marvin Vettori can wrestle. He's over there at King's MMA, a great school. He's got really good wrestlers there, Kelvin Gastelum, other people like that. He's a good wrestler, but he grew up in Italy, not in the collegiate wrestling system. It's going to be interesting to see if he starts resorting to shooting takedowns, if he gets caught or pieced up on the feet. He's got good striking. I just think he's not the wrestler that Derek Brunson is. He's not even a D2 wrestler. So I think that that Kevin's going to be able to piece him up, and I think Kevin's jiu-jitsu is better on the ground, but Vettori's on a streak. He's confident. He's a strong guy. It's going to be a great fight. Kevin's going to have to work, but I think Kevin can do it in an amazing fight.
Absolutely. Well, Colin, we've had another amazing episode, 2 amazing guests tonight. I hope everybody that was tuning in felt the power with MMA Power Hour, Colin Crandall and myself, Adam Roorda. I want to thank you guys for tuning in every single week, helping getting the word out. Make sure to go on over to our social media, give us a like, comment, share. It's just at MMA Power Hour. If you're on Fight TV, make sure to go on over and follow and interact over on the Hannibal TV on YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, make sure to go on over and follow and subscribe. Follow us over there at Fight TV. It's FITE.TV. And if you haven't already, make sure to also purchase yourself a bottle of this full spectrum hemp oil from Ness's Hemp. You see it right in front of you on the screen, bottom left-hand side. It is mmaph.nessashemp.com to get yourself an amazing discount. And that product will probably just change your life.
It will. Really good stuff. Really, really high quality, and you won't be disappointed. It'll help the show also as well. So we appreciate you, Dr. Adam Roorda.
I'm tapping out.
Fantastic. Really appreciate you. And in order of appearance, Dan Henderson, the legend UFC Hall of Famer, double champion in Pride, and just such a great fighter and great guy. Thank you so much. Again, for the next guest was Tony Gravely, UFC Bantamweight, amazing guy out of American Top Team. Can't wait to see you take home the W on April 17th. Thank you guys so much. Spread the love in a positive way. Be that guy.